I like to dialogue with my mind. Now, that sounds quite funny to say that you have a dialogue and a conversation with your mind. But anybody that does deep work with their mind, whether through meditation, whether through mind power, is that you find is that your mind is talking to you all the time. It's telling you things. It's commenting. It's too cold today. Or I don't like the people that I'm with. Or I wish I had more money. Or isn't this a delicious meal? So your mind is constantly commenting and has a narrative and is thinking all the time. And it's very valuable to, first of all, know that and observe it. Because one of the very first teachings that I give is that you are not your mind. And to realize that you're not your mind, that your mind is a part of you and a very important part of you, a very valuable part of you, but it's only a part of you. You are much beyond simply your mind. And your mind talks to you all the time. You get to talk to your mind as well.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because when I started my first business, I really struggled to believe in myself. I was making $300 a month and quit on my business partner. And the thing that saved me was watching the stories of successful entrepreneurs. They gave me strategies as well as hope and belief that just maybe I could do it myself as well. And I hope that this video here today helps you get a little bit more belief in yourself, because I still need the videos for myself today too. So today, let's learn from one of the best, John KEHOE, and my take on his top 10 was a success. Enjoy.
Sometimes at night, and this is quite often when I do it, lying in bed and I'm thinking thoughts and I'll just stop and I'll ask my mind, I'll say, what do you want to think about right now? And the mind just kind of goes, oh, it feels seen, it feels noticed, it feels actually a little bit vulnerable. It's like, what do you mean, what do I want to think about? Well, what would you like to think about? And the mind might say, I want to think about how upset I am about some, and it names some person, an incident that happened maybe a few days ago or a week ago. I want to think about how terrible this person is. And you go, okay, you have that option, but can I give another suggestion to you? Why don't you have compassion for this person? Why don't we, you and your mind, why don't we have compassion? Would you be willing to have compassion for this person? The mind says, no, I don't want to have compassion. And I want to feel really angry. And you can say to the mind, okay, then you can be angry, but you know what? How's that going to make us feel? Why don't you be angry let's be angry for a couple minutes. And your mind gets really angry for a couple minutes. And then you go, now how does that make us feel? The mind says, I'm angry, I'm upset. Well, do we like this feeling? No, we don't like this feeling. Let's try compassion for this person. Let's realize that maybe this person is wounded internally. Maybe they're going through a lot of problems and difficulties. And let's try compassion. Let's do that for the next 2 minutes. And the mind says, okay, let's have compassion for that person. And you have compassion for that person for 2 minutes. And then you say to the mind, how does that feel? And the mind goes, that feels much better. All right, then here's what we're going to do is I will let you think what you want to think sometimes, and you let me think what we want to think. And I have different things. For example, it's been a long day today. I think that I would like to feel gratitude right now. Can we feel gratitude together? Do we have anything to be thankful for in our life? The mind will say, well, let me think. And it will come up for reasons on why to be thankful. and you move into gratitude. And so that's exactly how you work with the mind at different times, when it could be maybe you know, when you're doing your meditation, or throughout the day, to take out. I mean, we take coffee breaks. Why not take a mind break? Why not take a break through your day, several times through your day, where the mind will think what you want it to think? And you can work with love, you can work with inner peace, you can work with gratitude, you can work with success, you can work with faith. I mean, there's so many ways that you can work with the mind and get it to meditate and contemplate. Or you can work with worry, you can work with fear, you can work with anger, you can work with resentment. All these are possibilities. And the mind has a whole range of things that it can think about. So the first thing is to be aware that your mind is thinking all the time. And secondly, your mind is not you. You're separate from your mind. Your mind is only a part of you. You have the ability, and actually the responsibility, to dialogue with the mind and to guide the mind and to train the mind and instruct the mind. And what I found with the mind is the mind loves to be trained. The mind doesn't like to be out of control. The mind doesn't like to be fear and worry. It falls into that trap. And it falls into that trap because it doesn't have you guiding it. But when you can enter into dialogue and guide your mind will become your best friend, your absolute best friend, your biggest supporter, and you'll be quite a team together.
Rule number 2 is practice happiness.
In life, we want to prioritize what is important to us. And there are so many things that we want in life. We want money, we want relationships, we want health, we want interesting experiences. And the list of goals that we have in our life can be quite long, and they can change from period to period in our life. Obviously, the things that you want in your 20s aren't going to be the same thing that you want in your 50s. And so in life, it is a constant pursuit of achieving goals and getting the things that we want out of life. But there is one thing that is a constant, and that constant is we want to be happy. And everybody wants to be happy. And we want life to be simple. We want it to be easy. We want it to be effortless. And we want to enjoy ourselves each and every day. Now, I discovered many, many years ago that there are practices that allow you to be happy. In fact, I wrote a book called The Practice of Happiness. Now notice that the book is not called The Pursuit of Happiness. Happiness is not something we pursue. It is the practice of happiness. And so what you do is you practice being happy. Now, one of the things about happiness is that there's a misconception that happiness is something that you achieve and is something that is permanent, and once you've achieved it, you forever have it. And I think that rather than look at the word happiness, we need to change it a little bit. And so rather than thinking of happiness, why don't we think of contentment? Can I be content in my life? Can I be at peace in my life? Can I be relaxed in my life? And can I practice these things day by day? And what you'll find is that if indeed happiness is the ultimate goal, and truly it is, then what you do is that you practice every day having what I call moments of happiness. Like this very moment, you can be at peace with what's happening in your life. Now, there might be many things in your life that are troubling, yet at the same time, there are many things in your life that bring you joy, that bring you pleasure. Your children, your friends, a piece of music, something that you read. Maybe this very moment, just listening to me, is calming, is relaxing, is insightful, and something is being triggered inside you where you realize, this very moment I'm at peace. And so what you do is you take on the practices of happiness. And you take on the practice of loving kindness and spending time just loving other people or doing kind things, generosity. And what you notice that when you do these things is that you feel fulfilled, you feel joyful, you feel relaxed. And so it doesn't have to be complicated. And that's what happens a lot of times in our life, is that we make it too complicated. Now, one of the things that you learn in the Mind Power training and the master class is that you learn that the mind is a storyteller, that the mind tells us stories, that the mind has narratives about everything in our life. So here's a story and here's a narrative that you can begin to tell yourself. Life is simple. Life is easy. Life happens to me moment by moment. You can even have that as an affirmation. Life is simple. Life is easy. Life is something that happens to me moment by moment. And as you take on that affirmation, as you take on that narrative, as you tell yourself this over and over again, guess what? Life will become simple, life will become easy, and life will unfold moment by moment. And of course, that's the way it works. So don't overcomplicate it. That what you do is very simply embrace your life each day as a separate, unique day that is an amazing journey, a journey that you will never, ever experience again. And you appreciate it. And you look for things to be joyful about. And you stop and you allow inner peace to enter into you. And you look for ways to be kind for other people. And you notice that when I'm kind with other people, when I compliment them or maybe help them in some way, you notice how good this makes me feel. And then you realize, I should do this more often. And you do it more often. And you take on these practices. And as you take on these practices of living life, moment by moment, experience by experience, day by day, you realize that the real treasure in life is inner peace, contentment, loving kindness. And you can do these things each and every day. This is the journey and path to happiness and a happy and successful life.
Rule number 3 is follow your calling.
You don't find your purpose in life. Your purpose in life finds you. And it happens by you being an authentic human being and following what feels right to you and following your passion, because each of us has a purpose and a meaning in life. And usually that purpose and meaning is tied into what you love to do. The universe wants you to be successful, and the universe needs you to be successful because you are part of the universe. And each one of us has special gifts and special talents and a special way of contributing to our world unfolding and to bringing goodness into the world. And bringing goodness into the world is what we should be thinking about. If we are authentic to who we are and we follow our call, then our purpose will find us. Now, if what I'm saying is true, that each of us does have a purpose in life, and that the universe is calling us to fulfill our purpose, then probably it's tied up into something that you love to do. For example, procreation is having sex is pleasurable because the species needs to propagate. And because it's fun, because it's pleasurable, we do it and we end up with babies, and that's how the population increases. So if the universe wants you to contribute something valuable, why would it give you something that is uncomfortable, or why would it give you something that you don't feel in alignment with? Of course it's going to give you something that you love to do, because then you will do it. So the first thing to understand is trust what feels right and follow your passion and be prepared to bring goodness into the world. And this is what is taught in all our spiritual traditions. For example, in the Jewish Kabbalah, which I have studied and practiced, what they teach is that each soul has a purpose in their life, but no soul will ever know or understand the total meaning of life. But what you are called to do is to discover your purpose in life and to fulfill it, your little piece of what needs to be done. And in the Christian tradition, it is the same way. In the Christian tradition, they're called the gifts of the Spirit, and there are many gifts of the Spirit, and no one person has all the gifts. Each of us has a little piece that we add. And in the Buddhist tradition, what we are called, our purpose is twofold. Number one, to awaken ourselves and become enlightened. And number two, to bring goodness into the world. Now, it takes a lot of courage to follow your uniqueness and follow your calling. But if you can understand that deep within you, there is something calling to you to be your best, to be your best self, to bring goodness into the world, and that you do have gifts and talents, then you follow it wherever it leads. Many years ago, I was very fortunate that I discovered the compass that guided me perfectly in my life. And it was that I realized what I really needed to do is to follow what was fun and interesting. And I followed what was fun and interesting. And that led me into going into the woods. It led me into developing my teaching about consciousness and the powers of the mind. And you can too. You have a purpose. You have a meaning. But you don't have to know it all at once. Trust what's calling you and be a good person. Sometimes your purpose happens through a tragedy. Candy Lightner, who founded MADD, M-A-D-D, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. That happened because her daughter was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. And she was so outraged that she did something to make a difference. And she founded Mothers Against Drunk Driving, which is now also Mothers Against Distracted Driving. Maybe it's a tragedy. Maybe it's a calling you feel within. Maybe it's a very simple thing like trying to do goodness and bringing goodness into the world in each and every day. It doesn't mean we have to be like Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela or Gandhi or have some great vision. It simply means that we trust ourselves. We trust that in conscious evolution, and those of you that follow my teachings know that I firmly believe that consciousness is evolving and that you are a part of that evolving consciousness. And if we trust that, then all we have to do is be our best self each and every day. So, how do you find your purpose in life? No, it's the other way around. Your purpose finds you. And it finds you by being authentic and living your life day by day, following what feels right, bringing goodness into the world, and that will reveal your purpose.
Rule number 4 is be in charge of your emotions.
It's not okay to feel negative about yourself all the time. It's not okay to be angry all the time. Hey, something happens and it really upsets you, get angry. Be angry. And then let go of it. The worst thing that you can do is just hang on to it within you. So what you do with what we call anger and hate and resentment and jealousy is, rather than trying to eliminate them entirely, allow them a very brief, now I'm saying very brief, time with you. And while you're feeling them, notice how you feel. And what you're going to find, as you become proficient with this, you're going to find this does not make me feel very good. In fact, when I come out of it, I'm feeling really negative. I'm feeling really drained. Aha! What a great revelation. These things make me feel negative and drained. So, the next question, why would you want to indulge in them? And then you realize, I don't want to indulge in them. And so what you do is you become a choreographer of your own energy. That, yes, you can allow yourself to be depressed or angry or resentful or jealous or whatever. You can allow that to happen. You don't have to forbid it. But then you notice, no, it's almost always counterproductive. So maybe I'll give it a minute. I'll be angry for a minute, or I'll be jealous for a minute, and then let go of it. And then just work on love, work on success vibration, work on acknowledging yourself and feeling good about yourself, acknowledging other people. Work with that energy, and that's a very good strategy.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is set the right goals.
All of us are different. Every single one of us is unique. And every single one of us has a destiny. Every one of us has a purpose and meaning to our life. So the first thing you want to look at is, what are the societal memes? What are our cultural memes that tell us what is a successful life? And what they are that you make a lot of money, that you're rich, that you're famous, that you're good looking, that you're young. I mean, these are all the things that are what I call the cultural memes. So what will happen is that these will pull you towards them, because it's what you see on your internet feed, it's what you see on TV, it's what you see in magazines, it's what people are talking about. So you have to distinguish, is this my calling as well? And there may be some of them that are your calling. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being financially independent and having a successful life. All those are very good things. But beyond that, what is it that is calling me? What is it that my life wants to be? And the only way that you can approach that is, what would I love to do? What is it that I really feel that I'm good at? Because the universe wants you to be successful. It wants all of us to be successful. That success is ingrained in every single cell in our body. It is wired in our consciousness. And so because we're wired for success, and each one of us is seated with different talents, different desires, then if the universe wants you to be successful, and I'm talking personally you, not society, but if it wants you to be successful, then obviously it's going to imprint something that you would love to do. Because why would it give you something that you don't enjoy? Why would it give you something that is difficult? It wants you to be successful, and in order for you to be successful, it has to encourage you, and the way it does that is it's something that you love to do. So what I suggest to my students always is to reevaluate the goals that you have at different times of your life. Obviously, goals that you have at 20 are no longer appropriate at 40, the goals at 40 are no longer appropriate at 60. But that's the easy part. Sometimes the goals that you've established last month are no longer appropriate because something new has happened to you. You've had a new insight. You've had a deeper understanding. A new opportunity has revealed itself to you. So the way that you approach it in your life is, first of all, you're never going to get it 100% right. And that's okay, because often when we go off on the wrong path, when we trust ourselves, that will reveal itself. Because maybe a couple weeks into it or a couple months into it, you'll say to yourself, this doesn't feel right. And again, you're connected to your subconscious mind. One of your beliefs that you can imprint into your subconscious is that I always make the right decisions. And so what that will mean is that when you don't make a right decision, you will feel it really quickly. You'll feel it within a week or two that, no, this isn't quite right. And rather than being disappointed that you made the wrong decision, think of it as like sailing. Now, I love to sail. And when you go out sailing, you have to set your sails according to where the wind is coming from. And you need to tack back and forth to get to your destination. It's never a straight line. A motorboat is a straight line. But with sailboats, you're going back and forth, tacking either with the wind or against the wind. And that's exactly how it is in life, is destiny is never a straight line, never. It meanders, it goes in different directions. Sometimes it goes backwards, sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes you make wrong decisions. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's the way life unfolds. So always you come back to, does this feel right? Does it feel right to me? And as I'm achieving the different objectives in this particular goal that I have chosen for myself, as I achieve them, how do I feel? Do I feel great? Do I feel, yes, I'm on the right track? Or do I feel, you know what, I achieved it, but it still doesn't feel right? Trust what feels right. Always trust what feels right, because how you make decisions in your life is with your logic and with your feeling. Now, the logic is the conscious mind. Your feeling is your subconscious. And so when the logic and your feeling, your intuition, tell you the same thing, then you know absolutely you're on the right track. But when the logic says one thing and your feeling and intuition says something else, it's my experience that I always go with my feeling and intuition, because almost always that is the more accurate one. So have fun in your life, be successful in your life, make decisions that feel right, and when they no longer feel right, drop them and move on to something else. And when you follow that pattern, you will be led very well. Your destiny will find you, and you will have a fun and interesting and successful life.
Rule number 6 is navigate changes in life.
Life demands change. And we forget that. We get too comfortable in our life and we think, oh, I don't want, especially when everything's going well, we never make a change when everything's going well because we're comfortable with it. But when a crisis comes, it forces you to make changes because you just can't allow the crisis to overcome you. And very often, when you make those changes, they are the exact changes that you needed to make to grow in your life, to become a better person, a smarter person, a more successful person. And on a microcosm, each one of us needs to make changes in our life. I mean, change only happens by choice, chance, or crises. And hey, we've got a crisis, so don't let it go to waste. see, what is this calling me to do? And from an individual point of view, that's the advantage. But I want to even speak right now from a macro view, from a humanity point of view. This crisis is an opportunity too. It's an opportunity for us as a species to say, are we really living our best selves? How can we as a community, how can we as a population have different priorities? And I think the number one priority that any of us can ever have is to be our best selves. I mean, forget about how much money I can make or how many cars I can have or whether I live in a mansion or how successful I can make my business. Now, I'm not negating these things. These things can be important to you, but have we focused on what would make me a better person? What would make me kinder? What would make me more compassionate? What would make me more loving? How can I give back to my community? Maybe we've forgotten those things. And if we've forgotten them, then what a great opportunity for a crisis to make us re-examine them. So a crisis forces change, and change is almost always good, even if we resist it.
Rule number 7 is thrive in a crisis.
So the first thing is to acknowledge that, yes, I am in a crisis. The second thing to do is to acknowledge that I have been in a crisis before. And think about it. You know, usually we forget about the crises. I mean, crises are never enjoyable. They're traumatic. They're hard. They tax us to the limits. They draw upon all our resources. There's absolutely nothing pleasant about a crisis. But we do get through them. So if you're of a certain age and, you know, if you're at least 30, you've probably had at least 1 or 2 crises. If you're 50, you've had at least 3 or 4. And I'm in my 70s. I've had about 6 or 7 major crises. And what happens? You get through them. So that's the second thing that I want you to do, is I want you to remember that you have been here before. No, not this particular crisis, but a different crisis. And you did manage it. Now, at the time, you had no idea. I want you just to reflect back on previous crises. It might have been a health crisis, or it might have been a marriage breakup, or it might have been a bankruptcy, or any number of crises that you went through. And at the time, you had no idea how you were going to get through it. In fact, you thought it was hopeless. Be honest with me. You really did, didn't you? And why I'm sharing that with you is because when I went through my crises, even with my mind powers, I thought, how am I ever going to get out of this? But then I had to realign myself and remind myself that no, you always get out of crises, always. And so what I would like to do is to change the narrative. Now, the mind is a storyteller. The mind likes to tell us stories. And your mind right now has a story about this crisis. And the story might be, I'm never going to get out of it. I don't know how. I'm in a mess. My finances are in a mess. I've lost my job, or I'm losing my job. I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage or rent. I don't know how I'm going to do that. And for many of us, that is the story that we have going through us. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to change, I call this, it's actually an advanced mind power technique. I'm sharing with you some advanced techniques. Why? Because they're called for right now. That's why. And an advanced mind power technique is taking control of the narrative. And how we take control of the narrative is that we observe what we're thinking right now. Now, am I thinking right now that I'm not going to survive this, that this is a disaster, that I don't know how I'm going to get out of it, that I'm never going to rebound from that? If that's the narrative, what you do is you notice it. You notice, okay, isn't that interesting how I'm thinking? And you change the narrative. This is the first thing that you want to do in your mind power practice, is you want to change the narrative. And you change the narrative by saying to yourself that this crisis is hard, it's difficult, it's taxing me to my limit, and no, I don't know how it's going to all work out, and no, I don't know how I'm going to rebound from it. But what I do know is that I will rebound from it. What I do know is that it will bring an opportunity to me. What I do know is that I will develop courage, resilience, creativity, that this will bring out the best in me. And that becomes your new narrative. And it becomes your new narrative because you tell it to yourself every morning when you wake up. The very first thing that you say to yourself when you wake up is, this crisis will make me a better person. I will not only survive this crisis, I will thrive. I will become a better person. I will become stronger. I will become more resilient. I will become more creative. I will develop new work habits. I will develop new mind power habits, that I will become a better person from this crisis. And when you fall off to sleep, you spend 5 minutes and you remind yourself once again that I am going to come out of this crisis a better person. And you spend 5 minutes telling yourself this story, creating the narrative. And what happens with taking control of the narrative, and you're getting an advanced mind power technique right now, is that what you're doing is you're taking control of what your mind is going to think. So if you do this every day in the morning for 5 minutes, and every day in the evening for 5 minutes, then what will happen is you will come and start to believe that you are going to come out of this better.
Rule number 8 is stop negative thinking.
Negatives serve no purpose for us, and yet it makes absolutely no difference to the mind whether you think constructive thoughts or destructive thoughts. It makes no difference to the mind. It makes all the difference to us. It makes all the difference to our life. It makes all the difference to the things that are going to happen to us. But it makes no difference to the mind. Now notice I'm speaking of you and your mind as if they're different. And they are different. Now I'm going to share with you something very important to understand. And that is that you are not your mind. Just like you're not your hand. Your hand is a part of who you are. And you're not your foot. And your foot is a part of who you are. And you're not your mind.
Your mind is simply a part of who you are. It's not you. In the Mind Power training, one of the names that I give to the conscious mind is the great trickster. And the reason that I call it this is because our mind tricks us all the time. It limits us. It fools us. It brings us negative thoughts. And if we think that we're our mind, then we have to listen to every single thought that happens. But we're not our mind. So what we want to do is we want to eliminate negative thinking from our mind. Now, there are 4 excellent techniques for eliminating negatives from the mind, and I want to share 2 of them with you right now. The first technique is called cut it off. And in the cut it off technique, what we do is the instant that we find ourselves thinking a negative thought, we just immediately cut it off and insert a totally different thought into our mind. We don't argue with it. We don't analyze it. We don't defend ourselves against it. We just cut it off. And the key in this technique is the instant that you're thinking a negative thought. Like maybe the negative thought comes to you, oh, you're worthless, nothing much is going to happen to you. And you find yourself thinking it and you go, oh, wait, that's a negative thought. Just cut it off and insert a totally different thought. Now, in the second technique is totally different. Instead of cutting it off, what we do is we label it. We say to ourselves, what is happening inside me is I am now experiencing, quotation marks, a negative thought. It has no more power over us than what we give it. And here I'm going to share with you something that when you understand this next truth, you are 75% of the way of eliminating all negatives from your mind just by understanding this next truth. And that is that negatives only have power over you if you react to them. If we fail to react to the negative, it has no power. For example, when you're thinking a negative thought and you go, oh my God, what's going to happen? I just know that's going to happen. Maybe the thought is, oh, you're never going to get ahead financially. And you start thinking about that. That's true. It's not. And it builds upon itself. And it is getting its power from you. Negatives are like psychic leeches. They get their power from us. So in the second technique, what we do is we simply remind ourselves it's only a negative thought. It's only a negative thought. And you realize, wait, it's only a negative thought. That takes the power away from it. I mean, wouldn't it be great if when negatives came, they came with a little light that flashed to warn us, or maybe a little warning sound like, dun, 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 dun. You're about to hear a negative thought. You can choose to believe it or not. I mean, wouldn't that be great if that's the way they came? But it's not. When negatives come, they come like the voice of God. Guess what's going to happen to you? They come with such authority. And of course, because we don't know that we're not our mind, we have to sit there and listen to it. You know, from this point on, you don't have to do that. In the 6 laws of the mind, the 4th law is the law of control. And it states that we are forever experiencing thoughts, but we have the power and the ability to either entertain these thoughts or dismiss them. We control our thoughts. So the next time you find yourself thinking negatively, why don't you try one of these techniques and see how well they work? No longer do we have to be overwhelmed with negatives. No longer do they have power over us. From this point on, we have the techniques to eliminate negatives from our mind. So go out and use them.
Rule number 9 is overcome fear.
First of all, let's have a look at what exactly is a fear. A fear is you imagining in your mind what you don't want to have happen to you. Now, why would you ever do that? Well, you do it because the mind is lazy. And we do it because we aren't even conscious of the fact that we are feeling fear and thinking fear, and it just overtakes us.
And this is where the student of mind powers has a distinct advantage over someone that does not understand how their thoughts work, is that you understand that what a fear is it's a group of thoughts. It's you imagining what you don't want to have happen to you. It's like using mind power in reverse. Now, why would you do that? You do it because the mind just naturally makes up stories about the different aspects that we have in our life. And if we aren't training regularly, if we aren't in the habit of working with mind power and feeding our mind positive thoughts and having positive beliefs, then fears naturally enter into it. But here's a secret that I want you to really know and understand. And you will have great success when you understand this, is where do fears get their power from? Fears get their power from you. They get their power from you thinking them over and over again. It is you that is adding fuel to the fire. And actually, that's a very good analogy, because when you have a fire, whether it's a house burning down or whether it's a forest fire and all the trees are burning down, what a fire needs is it needs two things. It needs fuel and it needs oxygen. Well, when we have fears, it too needs fuel and it needs oxygen. So what is the fuel in our fears? Well, maybe it is the actual fear of losing your job or not getting ahead or falling sick or whatever the fear is that you have. That's the fuel. But what the oxygen is you thinking it, you focusing on it. You are giving it fuel. You are giving it energy. So here's the strategies for eliminating fears. And they're deceptively simple, but very, very powerful. First of all, whatever it is that you're fearing, make a notice of it. Be conscious of it. And say, I am not going to allow my mind to think that anymore. And so what I'm going to do is every time that I think this fear and feel this fear, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 minutes of affirmations, affirming the exact opposite of what the fear is suggesting. So if the fear is, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to be broke, you catch yourself and you say, okay, I'm going to do 2 minutes of affirmation saying to myself, I'm going to be really successful. I'm going to be prosperous. I'm going to have lots of money. I have no worries about finances. And you repeat this to yourself over and over again for 2 minutes. And when I say 2 minutes, I mean that you're actually either on your watch or on your phone, you've actually set a time and you do it for 2 minutes. Now here's what's going to happen, is the fear's going to go, yeah, right, as if that's going to make a difference. And the fear will come right back. What do? You hit it with 2 minutes of affirmations over and over and over again, affirming the exact opposite of what the fear is suggesting. And then what will happen is the fear will go, oh, he or she, they're really serious about this. I better not come back now for about 3 hours. But it'll come back. It'll test you. What do? You hit it again with 2 minutes of affirmations. I'm going to be tremendously successful. I'm going to have lots of money, or I'm going to be really healthy. And so what you are counteracting what the fear is suggesting to you. Now, this is very, very powerful. It's very powerful in 2 ways. Number 1, you are creating a new thought habit. And secondly, you're taking the power away from that fear. So always remember that fear gets its energy from you, so that everything that you can do to stop focusing on it and to create new images, new imprints through visualizations and affirmations, that will quite logically eliminate the fear. And by the way, it is your responsibility to eliminate fears. Fears exist in you, and you can think them or you can eliminate them. You are in control of your mind.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is trust life.
Trusting life means that you surrender into the mystery of it. And in surrendering into the mystery of it means that you have faith that all things will work out if you trust and you act on what feels right to you. Notice in your past, the way I like to approach it is to notice in the past when often we've had misfortune, or we've had a tragedy, or we've had a failure, and at the time it seemed absolutely disastrous. We had no idea how it was going to work out, what solutions, what was going to happen to us. And yet, somehow, it all did work out. And often, it works out even better for us. And if we can embrace the concept that life wants us to be successful and that we are part of the universe and that we are connected to everything. And by the way, these are all quantum physics truths, that we are connected to everything, that we are one with everything. I love how quantum physics and spirituality, how the teachings of our religions and the teachings of quantum physics are all connected. That if this is true, and it obviously is true, then everything that happens to us has a purpose, a meaning, or it's a path to something else. And again, we also embrace that life is not perfect. And so what we do is that we accept whatever happens to us. We don't necessarily have to fight it. That whatever it is, whatever misfortune we're presently experiencing, it's ours. It's ours to deal with. And so we surrender into that, but we surrender into faith. And we act. It doesn't mean that you just surrender and you do nothing. You, first of all, it's a two-step process. You surrender into faith that all is happening in my life as it should. That this misfortune, this problem that I have is here for me to deal with. And that I will deal with it. And it's going to bring a positive outcome to me. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my courage and resilience through this. I am now going to execute on my actions. And it means you change your thoughts, you change your beliefs, and you do whatever is necessary to change that circumstance. The power of action cannot be overemphasized. And the action is trust, faith, and action. Doing whatever is necessary to change the situation into something positive. Our subconscious is connected to everything. And this lets us work with our subconscious in very creative and innovative ways. Let me share with you an example of how an individual used the powers of their subconscious. In the 1990s, early 1990s, out-of-work actor Jim Carrey used the power of his subconscious mind to become the famous and successful movie star that he is now. And he did it by writing himself a check. What he did is, as a symbol to himself, he took out his checkbook and he wrote a check for $10 million. And he signed it and he said, "For services rendered," and he put it into his wallet. And then what he would do is every day he would take out that check and he would look at it. But he wouldn't just look at it. He would imagine himself receiving this money for a movie. And he did this over and over again. Every day he would do this. And not only that, but he would say to himself, "I'm a fabulous actor. Everybody wants to work with me. I have lots of movie offers." Now, this wasn't true. He wasn't hardly getting any offers at all. But by doing this over and over again, he was imprinting directly into his subconscious. And then what happened is opportunities started opening up. And then 5 years later, he received a check for $10 million starring in the movie Dumb and Dumber. Now, you have to understand this in the context of who Jim Carrey was, his talent as an actor, his comic genius, his work ethic, his determination to succeed, and the nature of the entertainment business. All these played a part in his success. But what is undisputable is by programming his subconscious mind in this way, he began attracting new agents, producers, scripts, and opportunities that made him the success that he is. And that's exactly what you will do when you harness the powers of your subconscious mind. You will attract the opportunities you need to be tremendously successful. Now, how does this work? How by simply imagining something in your mind and repeating it to yourself over and over again, how can that make it happen? Well, it's simple. Everything is vibrations of energy. Everything. Buildings are vibrations of energy. I'm a vibration of energy. You're a vibration of energy. Our thoughts are vibrations of energy. Now, it appears that buildings are different from trees, and I'm different from my wife, and you're different from your friends. And on one level, that's true and obvious. But on a quantum level, on a subatomic level, everything is vibrating energy, and everything is in communication with each other in the vibrating web of all reality. And to help us understand this, just think of algorithms in computer programming. For example, you might Google search a vacation in Greece. And then what you notice is for the next couple of weeks, you're getting advertisements for plane tickets and hotel offers, because the algorithms know that you're interested in Greece. Now listen to this. The universe is forever monitoring and responding to the energy of who you are. And what you want to do is learn to speak the secret language of the universe. And yes, there is a secret language of the universe. And that secret language is vibrations. Everything is vibrating energy. Everything. I have a John Kehoe vibration of energy, and it brings me my John Kehoe reality. You have a vibration of energy. Science calls it your energy signature. Everything has an energy signature. Everything has a vibration of energy. Earning $10 million for a movie is a vibration of energy. Success is a vibration of energy. And all your goals, everything that you want to happen in your life, has a specific vibration of energy. And so what we do is we begin to align with this vibration of energy. Now here's a little trick. Whatever it is that you want to have happen to you, what you do is you imagine in your mind that it already has happened to you. Not that it will happen, not that you're very confident and determined, but that it already has happened. Now, I'm not talking about living an illusion and hanging on to this for all day. I'm talking about an exercise that takes maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And during that 2 or 3 minutes, what you do is you imagine that you already have it. And what that is doing is that is imprinting into your subconscious that vibration of energy. And when that vibration of energy is in your subconscious, it attracts the people, the circumstances, the events, the synchronicity that makes it happen. I mean, it's extraordinary. We get to imprint into our subconscious whatever it is that we want. Let your subconscious do the work for you. All you have to do is instruct it very clearly on what you want to have happen. Imagine it in your mind as if it already has happened, and repeat this over and over and over again, and it will find its way in the subconscious, and then the subconscious does the work for you. Imagine if your subconscious was working for you 24 hours a day, each and every day, and that's what it will do. Our subconscious is our partner in success, and all we have to do is connect with it. You know, even spending 5 minutes a day, you can connect with your subconscious, imprint into it, and have extraordinary things happen to you.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Bruce Lipton, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You have to take the knowledge that you are walking within your conscious mind and put that knowledge into your subconscious programming. And when you do that, you are all powerful in the creation of your own life.